and welcome. I'm Sanjay Pinto. This is the first episode of a series of webinars jointly hosted by the Press Institute of India and UNICEF. A big shout out first to Sashi Nair, Sugato Roy, and Sushmita for putting this together. Ladies and gentlemen, remember that good old nursery rhyme. This is the way we march to school. Today, due to COVID, that march is with justifiable trepidation. That march is with anxiety, with risk, because having kids back at school during the pandemic is no child's play, really. The emergence of clusters cannot be ruled out. But the psychological toll from being cooped up inside their homes for a year and a half, the fallout in terms of child labor and even child marriages due to schools shut for so long, and the big digital divide, that's a term we keep hearing of late, the big digital divide, make this subject of reopening of schools debatable. Today, we have all the relevant stakeholders on our panel to give us different shades of opinion. I go first to our dashing Health Secretary of Tamil Nadu, Dr. J. Radhakrishnan IAS, a good friend of mine for decades, I must say, and the man of the moment, really, who's still joining us despite his hectic schedule. He has a Chief Secretary's meeting in a short while. Sir, thank you very much for sparing your time. What are the figures on COVID cases among school students and teachers since the reopening? You'll have to unmute yourself, sir. Sorry, you have to unmute yourself.
Good evening, everybody. Hello.
Yes, sir, we can hear you. We can hear you. I was asking you about the COVID figures after the reopening among school students and teachers.
I shared with you the exact figures, but generally it is, roughly around 10 cases, 10 to 20 cases, depending on the days. And by this time, we would have had around 400 odd cases with the students, and plus around the contacts. And teachers and non-teaching staff, another 600 odd cases should be there. But this, if you look at the entire set of people. Hello?
Yes, please continue.
See, we have to actually look at it in the overall context of, 9 to 12 students, total number of students rather than absolute numbers. So we are keeping a close watch, but basically it is being done by the education department.
Okay. So you wouldn't consider this as the health secretary, you wouldn't consider these numbers alarming at this rate, under control, expected?
My personal view is that, probably till, that is, I would like to be very frank that, the expert committee was of the view that it is about time we start the schools considering the mental health issues. But personally, I was feeling that since these children are generally not vaccinated, probably by the time the community gets vaccinated as a whole by end of October, it would have been slightly better. But these are issues of policy where all of us have to sit together and take a call, and we have to take a balance. So there the follow-up of SOPs come into the picture. And all these cases which came in the first 5 days were basically, they would have already had picked up COVID outside the school premises. So we have been able to contain it so far effectively. But this is a wait and watch policy where, in health, you cannot dynamically say that things are in control because it's a daily kind of thing. If you look at last time in Tanjavur, there was almost 50 odd schools had cases coming up in January and February. So far, that has not happened this time around. It has been isolated, sporadic cases here and there. So we are keeping a close watch while we have been satisfied so far. But we cannot say in the long term how it pans out. Again, the other issue is this is not mandatory that people should come only for offline classes. So both options are there. But considering the fitness of things, we are just monitoring and then looking at the overall picture. And this gets reviewed at the highest level up to the level of Honorable CM, where Education Department, Health Department, other stakeholders, all of them join together.
Yes, I think that really makes sense. It's a very prudent decision to have that hybrid system. And we must really give credit to the government, give credit where it's due, right from the Chief Minister down the line. They have been very proactive in arresting the COVID numbers here, at least in Tamil Nadu. My next question is, did you factor in the double whammy or how much of the double whammy was really at play when this decision was made? I know it was a tough decision because on the one hand, students are still not eligible for the vaccination, and the predicted third wave, experts fear, could hit children. They would be the target in a sense. So what was the rationale really behind reopening schools now as opposed to maybe a few months later or perhaps the next academic year? Because
see, the experts were actually fairly united in their view. I'm talking about Dr. Soumya Swaminathan, who is the chief scientist with the WHO, who is also part of the state committee, Dr. Prabdeep Kaur, Dr. Peter, CMC Vellore. All of them, they were of the view that, we also need to look at the mental health issues, while at an administrative level, I was very honest about the challenges. So, and we all also went through a level where, the positivity had come down to below 1% in the state. Now, again, it has started rising. It was expected only that, till October, you will have this off and on season where we have to ensure that the rise is only arithmetic and doesn't become geometrical or exponential in the coming days. For that, again, children are not solely responsible. If you look at wherever the cases have come, there are two reasons. One is that the general immunity levels have come down, but more importantly, apart from not following COVID appropriate behavior alone is not the cause. It is also an entry of a deadly variant. So the January, February, March, we first had the British variant, then subsequently we had the Delta variant. So now, if you look at the Sero survey, it is around 66% of the population, including, to be very frank, some among the children already have come out of it without even knowing that they had COVID. So it was a very calibrated kind of decision. That's why we have not said, first to final year immediately. It was 9 to 12th first, wait and watch policy for 1st to 8th. Colleges again, and ITIs, those kind of things where it was also having an impact on their future. So again, it was based on follow-up of strict standard operating procedures. To the entire audience, I would like to mention that, COVID has also taught that wherever, I always take an example of Emergency Operations Center of the Revenue Department, or for that matter, Health Department, which works 24/7, and they have worked without much damage to them, despite being at a very high risk, because they follow the SOPs very strictly. This is where I think all over the world, there has been a bit of casualness that, instead of saying that SOP is followed, it is followed in a ritualistic manner, not in a religious manner. Becomes
the fact
ritualistic.
That you find a lot of, Dr. Radhakrishnan, you find a lot of people wearing their masks on their chin, probably thinking the messaging probably went out that, they need to cover only their mouths and not their noses. And also another reason that I am really concerned as a parent as well, is that, the monsoon is coming up and that this could be the season of flu and all that. And it could be very misleading. It could lead to some panic as well when children perhaps catch the seasonal flu. I know your son Arvind is now an award-winning doctor, but let me put you on the spot and ask you, if you had school-going children, would you have asked them to pack their bags?
See, I will also look at the schools and ensure that they follow the SOPs very strictly. They stagger the classes, or they ensure that the classes, there is enough spacing about it. But yesterday also I came to know about an international school which is asking children to come between 1st and 8th courses, which is illegal. So here we have to be very careful about what
that is shocking. You're saying an international school asked, in defiance of the government order, asked students to come to school.
Informally, I came to know, and we have actually sent messages that, this kind of emails is incorrect. No, 1st to 8th class, on their own will. There is no question of, having their own will, because these are, and I also tell people that the present orders are not issued just under Public Health Act or Epidemic Act. These are directives under the Disaster Management Act. So we need to respect that, and we need to look at it from the administrative point of view, that we have to very critically balance. But in all decisions in disaster management, and particularly with COVID, we have to be very dynamic. We cannot, stand on egos and say that we have taken a decision, we will not revise, or we will not be willing to take a decision. You look at trade. You look at trade. Coimbatore is an example of a very big success story where people got themselves vaccinated. They subject themselves to minimum.
Success story after the initial fiasco.
No. I'm telling that, something which went to the lower step. It was a black spot in the system, but in the current
We learned
year,
our lessons, yes.
The lessons were very, we have to salute the traders and the present commissioner and his team. They religiously ensured that almost 25,000 people there get vaccinated. Every day also fresh vaccinations are done. And they also get themselves subjected to randomly test around 500 samples. So everywhere where we have learned our lessons in COVID, it is good. Wherever we have not learned our lessons, where, like you say, except now in this room, you are very right. In this room, I'm staying without mask. In other places, if I put a mask just to convince people about this, but not put it correctly, we are putting ourselves in a risk. Any crowded place, more than a school or a college or a marriage, the biggest flouting, cases emerging in the last 2 months, incidentally, not out of even shops, but functions. Individual family functions, marriages, birthdays, even funerals, that have thrown up thing. Of course, we do have occasional.
Are you actually enforcing? I don't want to digress beyond because it's about school reopening, but just very briefly ask you, when you say 50 or 100 people for a marriage, how do you actually enforce that? Because it doesn't seem to be followed anywhere. Because I know of several weddings where a minimum of 200 people enter. Only few marriages they actually stagger, the timing. So we have different slots for different categories. The other day, a senior officer had a wedding for his son and it was staggered. I mean, he had officers coming in at a certain time. He had friends coming in at a certain time. How do you actually enforce this? Is it possible to enforce the numbers for especially for marriages?
The revenue and police are finding it tough, and including public health authorities. But I have also seen marriages where even in very big premises, they have ensured that it is strictly followed. Somewhere down the line, now the awareness has to change into change in behavior. Somewhere this is not happening. Everybody seems to be aware, but they are taking the behavioral change very lightly. And when you come back to schools also, I would personally feel that in a calibrated decision, at present things are happening. Of course, we will have to very closely watch. We just cannot say that, suddenly like January, February, when we had a huge spurt in schools, school-based outbreak. We do every time a source analysis. It is not just, everybody sees the numbers in the evening, which is an aggregate of what happens. So how much came out of schools? I have, of course, the figures, but it is a school department's data. So I do not want to randomly share it in this webinar. But ideally, we have to look at it, how many are tested. I found that many places, the entire people are tested, then they are also isolated in the first 2 weeks. So every school has been directed to follow the SOP very strictly, but we are keeping our fingers crossed.
All right. Before I let you go, I know there's a lot of journalist colleagues. The old journalist in me sometimes comes to the fore. What is your meeting with the Chief Secretary about? Is it COVID related? Is anything that you can share with us?
See, I think we run on some of the most transparent kind of, at least health department cannot be accused of meeting transparencies. We have 2 different meetings. One is a task force committee meeting with respected our Purnalingam, retired IAS officer, which has, very good doctors like Dr. Jayaprakash Malayal, Dr. Guhanandam, Dr. Kulandesami, and of course, all the senior health officials. Subsequently, we have been getting these vaccines in fits and starts. So again, we are now going to be flooded with vaccines after 3 days of gap. So we would be having a video conference with the collectors to sensitize them on the next Sunday's drive, and of course improving the daily vaccination levels also. Since we are today we have got around 14.5, and suddenly from less than 1 lakh, our vaccine levels have again gone up by the end of the day, it will reach 20 lakh, and the next few days another 20-30 lakhs are accepted. So this would be more on these areas only.
Thank you very much.
We definitely will use the opportunity to sensitize the collectors. Already we have sensitized them about dengue also. Dengue is equally important, and this is a monsoon season. Particularly since all of you are here, I would like to mention that, there is a tendency to ignore constructions within the school site, and some which are open, that becomes a breeding ground. So many times we will be focusing on COVID, but actually the outbreak like Firozabad was on dengue, where, unfortunately 50 children died. And we are keeping COVID cases so far. Children, even whenever it has come, it has been either asymptomatic or very mildly symptomatic. So we are keeping our fingers crossed. I really thank the organizers for, advancing my discussions a little bit early.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Radhakrishnan. We let you go now. Always a pleasure talking to you. Reminds me of the good old times, really. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sanjay, Sushmita, and the entire team, for Shashi sir also. Thank you. And all
Thank
the people who are in this webinar. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's bounce this off our child specialist doctors now. Dr. Benny Benjamin has logged in, senior pediatrician at Otis Malar Hospital and Sishu Clinic. Doc, can you switch on your camera, please, and unmute yourself?
Just tell me about the camera business. I'm not
You're live
savvy.
now, Doc. You are live now, so yeah, we continue.
I put my.
How much
I unmuted. So how do I do the camera? I just couldn't get it. Sorry.
You'll just have to. Okay, you'll have to switch on your video. Next to your mute button, you'll have a stop video and switch on video.
Okay, that's easy. That's easy.
Yeah, now we can see you. Yes, Doc. Thank you for joining us. How much of a gamble has this decision to reopen schools been? As a doctor, as a pediatrician, how much of a gamble has this decision been? Because vaccinated teaching and non-teaching staff can be asymptomatic and also spread the coronavirus.
Yeah. Okay. I think I think this reopening of schools at this stage of the pandemic, receding epidemic, is a very important measure for the reasons which Dr. Radhakrishnan and Mr. Radhakrishnan raised, and for various things which I have noticed in my personal practice as a pediatrician over the last 1.5 years. As we said, the sudden lockdown with the closure of schools has caused a lot of problems, not only in schooling, but related to nutrition, health, and psychosocial problems have been accumulating. So, and in this situation where we have continuing cases, but in small numbers, I think opening of schools is very important for its nutritional benefits of the midday meal scheme for poor people, and for the other benefits of offline schooling for all people.
Doc, you're not worried about the third wave that they say will hit children, the third wave?
Yeah, okay. Now I think as far as the predicted, I mean, I want to be a little prophet myself about what's going to happen to this ongoing epidemic. As Mr. Radhakrishnan pointed out, because of increased seroprevalence and immunity from previous exposure to the virus, and because of vaccinations being speeded up to warp speed by both the government of India and particularly the state of Tamil Nadu, there is increasing herd immunity, which is dynamic and changing by the day and by the week. So I believe that.
Okay, Doc, you'll have to unmute yourself again.
Okay, sorry for the disturbance. So I think there won't be a third wave. I want to predict there won't be a third wave, and even if a small wave happens, it won't be a big one.
That must be music to everyone's ears, especially parents and children. Hold that thought, Doc. I'll come back to you. If you can stay on there with your camera and with your audio also on. I want to go to your colleague, Dr. Ravi Chandran, Professor of Pediatrics at the Institute of Child Health. Doctor, may I request you to please switch on your video and unmute yourself, please?
Yeah, done,
Dr.
sir.
Ravi Chandran. Hi, Doc. Good evening. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for waiting patiently, Doc. We had to actually let the the Health Secretary answer his questions and then go.
Yeah.
Doc, the focus has been on sanitizing the environment inside the campus or classrooms. But the fact is that students are not para-dropped in sterilized bubbles. A sizable chunk of our students travel to schools in jam-packed vans, in buses or autos packed like sardines, where the rules on masks and distancing are flouted. Wouldn't this be a red flag? Would this worry you as a pediatrician?
Definitely that would worry me as a pediatrician, because if you look at the studies that have been done so far across the world, because the world has witnessed a pandemic and many countries have had their schools reopened and then they have been running through. So if you look at most of the studies, two things come out very clearly. One is that where the community herd immunity is low and the community spread is high, if the schools are reopened, you are going to get a lot of cases in the school. Okay. Wherever the community spread has been less and herd immunity is high, the spread through the schools have been high if they don't follow the COVID appropriate behavior. So study from Utah says that, Chicago has proved it. So the community had a low transmission rate. But when these children did not follow the COVID appropriate norms, and the schools did not follow it, they became spreaders. And so it is very important that we have this multi-layered protection of masking, social distancing, and then frequently washing the hands. More importantly, do not allow your child or the employee to come into the school if he has fever or symptoms, and periodically test the people as it is being done at Coimbatore randomly, so that you will have a surveillance mechanism in place. And if you can follow it, I'm quite sure you will not get the problem. But coming to
the honest talk with like the first wave, people were popping paracetamol tablets before actually landing after taking flights. Stay with us, Doc. I want to go back to Dr. Benny. Doc, you spoke and you gave us good news. I really hope your prophecy comes true about the third wave not really taking place as feared, or perhaps at a much lesser level. In the first two waves, children were not affected that much. Why is that Why is that they say that during the impending third wave they could be the targets?
The first wave, the children were not affected much, but I believe the second wave, they were affected much more than in the first wave. So I don't think it's correct to say they were not affected. And if there's a third wave, there's a prediction that they'll be also affected more. But I want to again reassure the audience that though the Delta variant is more transmissible, infective, so far it is proved to be not more dangerous, not more serious. And most of the cases that came to my attention in the second wave have been mild and have been able to get away with just supportive treatment and home quarantine. And even from this thing from the medical literature, the number of admissions required for children in the second wave has been very few, and serious life-threatening complications have been even fewer, of the order of 0.1 or 0.2%. Some of them from late, post-COVID complications of inflammatory syndrome. Very small numbers. And I believe even if the children even if the third wave and more children be affected, it's going to remain mild in children. So that's my kind of hopeful message to the audience, to parents of children, and to everybody. And I believe that it will remain mild in children. It's not going to inevitably more serious as some people are predicting. I don't think that's based on right data. And the Delta variant has so far remained a variant which is more transmissible, but not more serious for causing severe disease. And one more hopeful message is that when you come back to school, we should ensure that all the adults above 18, that is the teachers, administrators, college students, etc., are vaccinated. And the vaccines for children are going to come later, 12 to 18. It might take some more time because we don't have enough vaccines to cover the adults. And then though there's emergency use approval for children about 12, it will become available for use for them not in the immediate future, but in the medium future, maybe by next year, I feel. And we should again concentrate on children of that age who have comorbidities, who might have a higher chance of severe COVID. And then, of course, children below 12 is going to be some time away before studies are done and it's approved for them, and we should have enough vaccines for that group. I think the priority is to vaccinate all the adults before we move to children, and then again 12 to 18, vaccinate the children with other illnesses which makes them susceptible to more severe COVID.
All right. Thank you very much, Doc. Go back to Dr. Ravi. Ravi, I don't want to, nitpick here, but then when I read the standard operating procedure before the reopening of schools, I saw clause 1B referred to ensuring sanitation of school transport before they start flying. The fact is that not all schools have their own buses and vans. Isn't crowded public transport a perfect setting for the virus? The way we see it, you look out of the window, you find people, even the bus driver, wearing a mask on his chin. Very few people, definitely less than perhaps 50% are actually wearing masks the way they should be worn. Isn't this a big danger for school children commuting?
Yeah, it is a big danger. There is no doubt about it. So majority of the schools do not have their own vehicles. Only the private sector schools do have their own vehicles. And I I have a feeling that they would ensure, because it is important that they start operating, and it is better for the children. They also know that for good results, for good skill development, they need to be there. With respect to the public sector, yes, there is a problem. There is no doubt about it. So though theoretically it is mentioned that only 50% of the buses should be occupied, you can't. That means you need to have 2 times the amount of buses which normally ply otherwise, which is not possible, which is not happening. And so having said that, so it is up to the parents to identify ways and means of sending them. So one simple way is to have this, they can club together themselves and then say that from those they can carpool or they can do things like that, wherever it is possible. Where it is not possible, like coming from the very poor family, they have been managing with cycles. And so maybe I think we should encourage actively the going of these children in the cycles. And this is where the parents should come together in the Parent Teachers Association and then decide and then plot it. It requires that they all should work together, because if one child is affected, and then these children could be at risk. And so they have to look at the common good rather than at the whether why I should support or whether it should be happening. I just want to add 2 points to what Dr. Benny said. Sir, if you look at the first wave, the percentage of children was said to be 3.5%. This is only the symptomatic. If you look at the serosurveillance, you will find that 55 to 60% of the entire population were asymptomatic, and they had probably been, some of them had been vaccinated, and some of them did have symptoms, but the chances are that many of them were asymptomatic, and children constituted 55%. So they were equal. Similarly, in the first wave, you will find that the percentage of children who have been tested is around 3.5, 3.6, symptomatic only, but the rest, they were all asymptomatic, and they had been serosurveillance proved to be positive. So the third wave predominantly affecting the children is a myth. It will affect equally those people who are not exposed or who have not yet got the vaccine. So the chances are that I don't know why suddenly there has been a lot of hullabaloo about children would be the maximum target. It is not so. Children would equally be at the same risk as an adult, but the children do not suffer from major illness. And that is the key point. If you look at the percentage.
That is not just a key point. I think that could also be the headline emanating from this discussion. Thank you very much. I think both the doctors are really, are messiahs of hope in a sense. I want to bring in the school principals who've also been waiting patiently here. If I can go to Mrs. Rukmani Sridharan first, principal of PSPB Millennium School, OMR. Mrs. Rukmani Sridharan, ma'am, if you could please switch on your camera and unmute yourself.
Yes, sir. Good evening, Mr. Sanjay.
Good evening,
good evening to all the respected members who have assembled for the webinar.
Good evening. So good to see you. So good to see you after so long, ma'am. Yes. How challenging has it been to enforce the mask rule for school children for long hours? Because based on our experience with adults so far, it's not an easy task. And what are the precautions in place during the lunch break when masks have to be removed?
Okay. So I can speak about what is the practice that we are having right now at our school. So as per the government directives, we have reopened only for classes 9 to 12. Yes. And we have sent the Google form and got the parent consent. And depending upon the willingness, the number of students who are willing to come to school, we have put them in batches. And right now we are working only from morning 8 to afternoon 12:15. We have not given them any opportunity to have lunch at school.
What about any other interval,
recess? So what we have done is after every period, there is a gap of 15 minutes. So they will be sent in the staggered way. All the time we ensure that the teachers are there in the classroom and they will have their dry snacks, or if they want to use the restroom, they will be monitored. We have the student council body taking on the charges during that break of 15 minutes, the teachers all the time at school. And I would, Mr. Sanjay, I would rather believe the connect that we have been having with the parents and the children. I think it is more of a self-realization rather than, keeping on giving them the rules and the commands and the orders. I think it will work well when there is a self-realization among all the stakeholders, as rightly pointed out by the earlier respected speakers, right from the van driver who is transport, because we also do not have the school buses. So right from the drivers who are transporting the students to the school, the security at the gate, the persons who are doing the temperature checking at the point, entry point, and all those who are on the corridors, who are in the classrooms, if everyone, if there is a self-realization that they have to safeguard themselves and they have to take care of the others too, I think our job will be much easier. So far, so good, touch wood, that we have been able to run the classes smoothly as on date, and hopefully it will go on.
Let me also get another, thank you, ma'am. Let me also get, please stay on with us, the other principal, because we want to get as many voices as possible. Mrs. Anuradha Ramakrishnan, principal of Maharishi Vidya Mandir. Ma'am, may I request you to please switch on your camera and unmute yourself.
Good evening and namaste
Good
to all.
evening. Good evening, namaste, ma'am. Ma'am, a standard operating procedure has been laid down with
Yes.
routine precautions, thermal screening, mask, hand sanitizing, distancing. But there are certain impractical points, like I noticed in Annexure 1, Clause A, earmarking different lanes for coming and going to students, the access. How many schools have different lanes? How many have parking inside the schools? How will overcrowding be prevented on access roads on which students will be exposed to outsiders who may have their masks on their chin and may even spit on the roads? I've seen this. Near schools, there are people who pass by, spit on the roads. So these are points where perhaps these are like blind spots. How are you planning to address this? Although it's not technically your responsibility starts when the students come into your gate. But still, overall, how are you probably addressing these blind spots?
For your information, we have not yet started school for in MDM. We have only till class 8, but we have planned for it, like to have in a shift basis, not to be overcrowded, where the children can be brought in and dropped near the gate only, and they will not be, that is the parents will not be let in only from the gate. It will be systematized and put it in a line and they'll get into the classes. So as of now, we have planned that on shift basis and having only 20 students per class, where we can follow all the SOPs of what is being mentioned. So that's what we have planned for.
Okay, Rukmini, if I can come back to you, how many of you have any of your students, the teachers or non-teaching staff, tested positive for COVID since the reopening? I hope not, but
No,
if
sir,
so,
no,
what are
sir.
the numbers? No one, no one at all.
Not yet. And all the teachers, housekeeping staff, security, admin, all of them have been vaccinated. So we don't have any adult in the school campus who is not vaccinated. So far, so good. We do not have.
Even we have vaccinated, sir. All the teachers are vaccinated. We have made it mandatory that the teachers and the non-teaching staff also to be vaccinated.
Okay. Rukmini ma'am, were the teachers eager or reluctant to return to work?
Oh my God, if I have to be very honest, every time the teachers used to plead that they want to come back to school because of the difficulty at home, taking care of the online classes and the expectations of the family members, in terms of serving them everything hot right from the morning breakfast till the late night dinner.
Multitasking took on a new level.
Very eager to come back to school. There has been numerous requests, ma'am, when are you going to reopen the school? At least even if the students are not coming, let them come and have some discussion, let them stay for a while and go. And really, we are blessed to have such a team of wonderful teachers. And all of them have joined, and all of them, including the co-scholastic teachers, they have taken on their duty. And yes, sir, we are able to, so far so good.
So we are also handling, the teachers are handling the classes from the school. The teachers are brought to school, and from there they take up the online sessions. In fact, they want the students to come to school also. Even the students wish to come to school.
Okay.
They are very psychologically.
There is also the problem of internet connectivity issues, the spacing.
Exactly.
Because majority of them live in the single bedroom or double bedroom apartment, where the connectivity issues are also cropping up. So teachers are actually very.
And also, I think now power cuts also have started. So even if you have not all houses, not all homes have inverters or gensets. Anuradha ma'am, what about your teachers when it comes to online teaching? How challenging has it been when it comes to online teaching as opposed to the regular chalk and talk method? Because they've had to really adapt very quickly. What do your teachers say about making this shift?
Actually, the challenge started from last year. We started the school last year only in the pandemic situation, and they had started with the technology. and it was real a challenge. Even the training session was happening in through
So
online.
you didn't really have a foundation. You don't have a foundation stone or ribbon cutting. You had a logging in.
No, it was not possible. And then slowly we started the teachers to get into the school, and online sessions. We feel the teachers feel they are not able to reach the children. Every time the physical bonding between a teacher and a student doesn't happen through online. That is a major difficulty that even the teachers and the students feel. So
I've noticed that, in many schools, they have this, before the class, 5 minutes before the class, they have a sort of bonding session where they do small talk. And a lot of
Yes.
students really look forward to that. I heard my daughter's friends telling her teacher that, no, look, have you noticed my new haircut? These are things that actually happen in the classroom, especially for the smaller children.
yes,
And that's something they miss. But I think a lot of teachers, I must say, to the audience here, full marks really. The teachers
Yes.
are the one who award marks to the others, but we need to
Yes.
give them. We need to give
Yes,
our
yes.
teachers full marks,
I
and we
need
need to
to
give
give
them an A+.
applause.
Yes,
Yes,
virtual
absolutely.
applause to all our teachers. For scoring an A+, really. Their report card should read A+ for handling the pandemic. Thank you very much,
Thank you
both
for
Rupik
recognizing
ma'am
the
and
teachers. Yeah.
Anuradha ma'am. I go to our UNICEF Chief Social Policy Head, Mr. Lakshmi Narasimha Rao. Mr. Rao, may I request you to please switch on your camera? And thank you for waiting so patiently as I come across to all the panelists.
I have switched on, Sanjay. Am I
Thank you.
visible?
Thank you, Mr. Rao. Thank you. Thank you so much for staying with us. Somehow, where you stand depends on where you sit. So this anti-reopening group that is being, it's being dubbed elitist. And those who are for reopening advocate a reality check. Now, has UNICEF done a survey on two important evils, child labor and child marriages during the lockdown, because schools have been shut? And what do your findings reveal, sir?
So I would first, start with what has been already said. Couple of things, but of course I reiterate both the points. One which was said by Principal Secretary, and also then Dr. Ravichandran. Two things, essentially a calibrated approach and community involvement. I'll add the third one, contextualness. So these three C is what UNICEF has been propagating. Now, as far as the surveys are concerned, not exactly on child violence, there are anecdotal evidence, but I'll share a couple of studies that UNICEF has done in terms of one, what is the kind of study hours, because there's a lot of issues in terms of access to internet. We find that our studies have shown quick rapid assessment around only 60% of the students have access to internet or any kind of digital kind of media. That's the digital divide, which is very stark. And second is in terms of the learning hours, study hours. So typically what we have seen is our rapid assessments have shown at least 4 to 5 hours per day fall in the study hours. So these are two very important aspects. If you combine both of them, so we are talking about 40% of the population not having access, therefore those are lost. The rest 60% have access, but the number of study hours per day, I'm talking about per day, has come down by 4 to 5 hours. Now combine these two things, the kind of challenges that we are going to face is huge. Therefore, yes, violence is increased, has increased, and our biggest worry is, can we get back the students back to school? On the positive side, I'll just end with a positive side of it, that we have seen because of the twin shocks of recession and COVID, there has been a shift towards, people are losing employment, shift towards more enrollment in government schools, which is on the positive side of it. But having said that, UNICEF is advocating that people should be brought back to school immediately. Of course, there are other measures that we are suggesting, essentially having staggered timings and having staggered manner classrooms. So those are the things, but these are our findings, initial findings on the rapid assessment.
Okay. So now with domestic violence on the rise, especially during the lockdown, with everyone cooped inside, to what extent were children in such homes affected? Have you done any survey on this aspect?
Yeah. So what we found is that even the latest report, crime report, does show that the child crimes and violence against children has gone up. But really, we are waiting still for the assessments to come from the ground. We are yet to get the numbers, but definitely it has gone up. What we are more worried is children might not come back to school, and they might end up, child labor might go up. That's our initial assessment.
Okay. What about children from rural areas and poor families? How much have they been hit by this online mode of teaching?
Yeah, heavy. That's what the 40% that I was talking about, is essentially the ones who are completely, and another aspect that has come out of this survey that you've done is because of this 18 months of loss in education, the fundamental learning abilities have gone down. That is reading ability and simple mathematical calculations, which is I think it's a huge loss in terms of even when the kids are going to come back. What we will find is that it's not only learning loss, but also more than that, remedial classes. If we go by the similar curriculum that we have and we think that schools are open, therefore let's go ahead with what we have been teaching, I think that will be a huge disservice that we'll be doing ourselves. So what we are advocating is need to relook at the curriculum, need to relook at who should be promoted, who should be kind of given remedial classes. Unless that is done, we find it to be a huge task, and we are advocating a 1,000-day plan. There should be a 1,000-day plan. It's not just this academic year, next academic year. There is a need to have a 1,000-day plan and clear segregation of the learning based on learning abilities. Both, it's not just students, even teachers need to be properly upgraded, because now the kind of things that they're going to deal in classroom is different. Children are very irritated, attention spans have come down. Therefore, there is a need for orient the children as well. And as one of the principals mentioned, I think the parents, the parent teachers community also need to be involved. So it's I think it's a complete community involvement where UNICEF is actively involved in advocacy, ensuring the messages is gone. And the principal secretary said the messages have to go to the right people, and we'll find schools where the messaging is gone and parents are involved. There the cases won't come up. So that's UNICEF's point of view.
Thank you, Mr. Rao. Let me go across to Sudha Umashankar, senior journalist and activist, who's been so patiently waiting. In fact, Sudha was the first to log in into this webinar. Sudha, may I request you to come on the screen, please?
Yeah.
Thank you so much for thanks for your patience, Sudha.
Totally.
The criticism of online classes hinged on the digital divide.
Yes.
But people have not thought about students who don't have the luxury of sanitized private transport.
Yes.
Isn't that another conspicuous divide in your opinion?
Yes, definitely. Like you said, they are all huddled together in a share auto or whatever other means of transport that they use. I mean, it's not only ideal for spread of COVID. The share autos also are, a lot of abuse happens. Because children are virtually packed with no breathing space. The other thing I wanted to briefly touch upon, if I may, Sanjay, is the mental health of the children. It's been a very unsettling time for them. First of all, this virus, this strange thing that has overtaken our lives. Then when there's domestic violence happening, or when there is a loss of a family member, we've heard about children orphaned by COVID.
Yes.
So these are all very, very disturbing trends. And, all along we were complaining about children spending too much time on the mobile phone and this and that. But now, screen time is really taking a toll. I think at the end of it, all adults and children will need glasses with higher numbers, because it's really affecting both our focus and our, visual acuity to some extent. I think schools should have counselors on board once they open partially or maybe in a bigger way, because there will be children who need, various kinds of support, especially as Mr. Rao says, when, they've come back after this long break of practically no schooling to catch up. Some of them might really struggle, because not all of them have parents who can coach them at home. the workload on mothers has increased very much. So it's extremely difficult to juggle, to do without house help and, function, whether in an office or whatever.
A lot of mothers and fathers who also help out in the kitchen nowadays. Without
Yes,
the domestic help, at least for the first part of the lockdown,
yes,
they had to make do with working from home, children at the same time having their online classes, children coming and saying they're hungry, they need something to eat. So I think it was chaotic, but then full marks to the mothers as well, especially the mothers who've been working as well from home for managing, for multitasking so beautifully. We've been talking about the digital divide. Stay with us, Sudha. A class 12 school topper, Gunisha Agarwal, along with her sister Arshita Agarwal, a young lawyer, they've been on a mission to provide digital devices to poor kids for their online classes. Gunisha, if I may ask you to please join us now. Gunisha, are you there?
Yes, Uncle, I'm here. Good evening.
Yes, Gunisha. More power to you. Congratulations for what you and your sister have done. Really model citizens. And I request the audience to give them a virtual applause. Like Dr. Benny is giving her an applause there. Gunisha, what prompted you to do this? How many children have you been able to help? And how many children remain, in your opinion, in your assessment, who still need these digital devices? People who have reached out to you and you are still in the process of helping.
Actually, my house help was complaining to my mother about how her daughter couldn't attend online classes due to the lack of the digital device. On hearing this, my mother decided to give her an old laptop that was lying around in our house. This sparked this entire realization that there's so many students in India who don't have access to a digital device such as a laptop or a smartphone, and hence they haven't been able to attend their online classes. Malala Yousafzai once said, "One child, one teacher, one pen, and one book can change the world." Due to COVID-19 and the subsequent lockdowns, schools and colleges have shifted to online modes of teaching and learning. The lack of devices is a serious impediment for students, especially for students from low-income backgrounds. In this scenario of the new normal and this new era of social distancing, a digital device can literally change a student's world. Therefore, I decided to launch this initiative called HELP, which stands for Help E-Learning Program, where we collect old and new digital devices, service them, and provide them to students in need. So far, we've collected over 450 devices and helped
450. Wow,
Yes.
450 collected and distributed.
Yes, so we've collected and distributed over 450 devices and helped over 500 students. We've partnered with NGOs such as Teach for India and Seva Chakra Orphanage, and we provided devices to them so that we can reach more and more students and help them access online education.
That's absolutely wonderful to hear. I mean, I really wish we could clone Gunisha's and, the kind of the social responsibility that they seem to have. So it started with your house help actually needing a device for her daughter, and that actually spurred you on. Full marks to you, really. Thank you, Gunisha, for joining us. Most strength to you and all the very best. For the rest of the audience, I must say this, Gunisha happens to be the daughter of former Police Commissioner Mahesh Agarwal in Chennai. And in fact, even during the pandemic, she and her sister were seen distributing dry rations to people on the streets of Chennai. So these are students we are really proud of, really. And her mother as well, Dr. Manita Agarwal from the Madras University through the NSS, which she's a coordinator. Thank you, Gunisha, for joining us. Sudha, if I may come back to you, please. Do you feel that the reopening has been ill-timed because it is in the run-up to the festival season as well, apart from the Northeast monsoon? Sudha?
I don't think there will ever be a right, a perfect.
Never right time. Yeah, now or never.
Yeah, perfect time. Though, I mean, if a third wave is raging or something, of course, it doesn't make sense. But really, I think we should make a beginning with all the checks and precautions in place. And I think mindsets have to change, and we have to be very, very aware of all the, our masks and sanitizers and stuff. Sometimes children need more than one mask when they go to school because they tend to.
In fact, I do that. I take about 2 or 3 masks in my pocket. What if the strap cuts suddenly?
Yes.
Right? You're exposed. It's a matter of life and death, really. So I think you're very right to flag that. Children need more than one mask. They need spare masks as well in their school bags. Or
yes, they might sneeze or, or whatever. So they need more than one mask. Of course, it's it's very difficult. It's hit the budget of low income families very much. because many of them have been out of work. They've been struggling to pay the school fees, and they've been asking for a fee cut as well. So
some say that, I don't know, this is a conspiracy theory, that, the reason for reopening of schools is because certain managements could collect their entire fee for the whole year. Earlier, that was an excuse. Any truth in this?
I think they do need some amount of funds to sort of keep the show, at least maintain the place and keep, maybe not the full fee, but at least 50% of the fee, because they do have to take care of regular maintenance and other needs.
Salaries as well, yes. Salaries is the biggest component of their budget. Let me bring in Dr. Benny Benjamin here. Dr. Benny, I can see your hand going up there. Press that button.
Just one.
Yes,
if the child in school gets a fever, I want the parents not to get spooked by it, because it's less and less likely to be COVID and more likely to be one of the seasonal fevers like the flu and dengue, for example. So in my practice, I'm seeing cases, a lot of flu cases and many dengue cases, but hardly any COVID cases. So don't get spooked by if a child gets fever after returning to school, assuming it's COVID. It's not likely to be COVID. And also, even if the vaccinated adults like teachers, they're not totally protected because they can still get COVID, but it's likely to be mild.
But they can still be carriers. As I said earlier, they could still be carriers of COVID, even if they are vaccinated with both doses.
Yeah.
Is Dr. Ravi Chandran still with us? Dr. Ravi Chandran, are you still there, Doc, with us?
Yes, sir, very much.
Yes, Doc. Doc, if I can come back to you, see, the risk, they say, must be always weighed against the backdrop of alternatives. Now, there have been alternatives. Like, for instance, multinational companies have adapted to the work from home format. Courts in the country, most courts, at least in the country, have been predominantly functioning through video conferencing. I've been arguing my cases sitting right here. What was the earth-shattering hurry to move away from online classes? Couldn't we have waited for some time for the holiday season, for the festival season to pass, for the monsoon to pass, especially in Tamil Nadu, Northeast monsoon will set in by second week of next month. Do you think this was a slight bit of a hasty decision? I know that you have to begin somewhere. As a parent, I mean, this is a question on my mind.
Yeah. As one of the panelists was saying, if we look for an auspicious time, I don't think we will ever get an auspicious time as such.
Not auspicious time, a safe time, relatively safe time. After maybe more people are vaccinated, after this, festival season, monsoon season.
Yeah. So coming to your point again, I would like to counter it scientifically. See, if you look at the immunity, which is provided by the vaccine, there have been a lot of studies and there have been a lot of conflicting reports. But everybody agrees that the immunity may not be long lasting as such. So we may come to a kind of a flu-like situation where we have to keep boosting the duration of
third shot. When do we need to take the third shot? I read something to the effect that you don't really need the third shot because
right now the disease is new and the vaccines have also been new. So for us to actually predict whether a third shot would be required, would require further cohort period being looked on for some more time before we decide. Yes, there is a waning of the immunity. There is no doubt about it. So once the immunity starts coming down, then all of us are going to be at risk. The virus is also very dynamic. It is not going to keep quiet. It will mutate. It will change. And then we would be in for a wave as such. So this is the best time when you find that 66% of the population have seroconverted. And so that means at present you are not at risk. So the chances are that we are going to be in for a period of having these episodic lockdowns, going into modes where we'll probably have to be in school and then probably back at home. So given that situation, I think now would have been the best time. We know what it has done to our children because I've seen my nephews and nieces. So majority of the time they just switch it on, they switch off the video and then they keep playing around. And it's going to be extremely difficult as again one of the panelists was pointing out, Dr. KL Rao, that there has to be a paradigm shift in the way we are also going to look at the children, because now they are going to be frustrated, irritable. They would feel that they would have been better off at home than at school.
Yes. Another senior journalist, Sundarajan Murari, has pointed out something we raised earlier as well. One of the panelists mentioned that, midday meals, many of them miss out on the midday meals, which is their only source of nutrition throughout the day. That's a valid point, which was mentioned earlier. Mr. Murari, our senior journalist, also pointed this out. We have parents as well. It's not that, because parents are perhaps the most important stakeholders. If we can have parents to please unmute and switch on their videos first, we can get parents as well. I mean, all of us, I was speaking in our capacity as parents as well. But if we have parents who have logged in, who would like to share their views, I'd welcome. Any parents who would like to switch on their videos?
Thank you so much for this invitation, and we are very glad. Can you hear me? Am I audible?
Yes. Can you introduce yourself, ma'am?
My name is Priya, and my son is studying in Don Bosco in class 12. His name is Eric.
Okay, Priya, thank you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
When the vaccine is made available for children, will you be willing to give it to your son, Eric, pronto? Or would you prefer to wait and watch, maybe wait what happens to the neighbors' kids, in the sense that others be guinea pigs? I mean, I'm just asking you a very legitimate question here. So would you, on day one or within the first week, if the vaccine is thrown open for children less than 18, will you take your son for it?
To be honest, I'll definitely wait to watch what's happening and what the feedback and how the effects of vaccine being given to children under 18. So definitely, as a mother, from the mother's point of view, I will definitely wait and watch what's happening. So I don't want to take a risk and initially go and.
Is that your mother standing behind you?
Yes.
Can you ask her to join us, please? If your mother can. She's going up inside. Okay, it's kind of. I just wanted to know. I mean, as grandparents, do they also feel a little scared? When the children go to school and come back, because most grandparents would have comorbidities. So children could go and unwittingly spread it. So
my mother's very stern. As soon as he comes back from school, he has to take a wash. Even though in the morning he goes to school after wash, and he has to come back from school and get a wash, because elderly people still the threat is there, and it will take some time for them to come back to the normal situation. Whereas we have come back to we have started living the life with this COVID situation. So
the health secretary told us, Priya, that it was optional, that you had this hybrid option. You could still log in and do it online as well as attend physical classes. What made you take that risk, if I may call it a risk, of sending Eric to school?
Going to school is must, sir. To my knowledge, how long we can go on with the online classes? Like,
do you work? Are you a homemaker or do you work?
I work as a manager, receivables in a shipping company.
And are you back to work? In the office?
No, I'm working from home since.
Okay. So you're happy to send your son away because he disturbs you too much when you're at work?
No, actually, I asked him. He said he wants to go to school and start socializing, maybe with the social distancing. Start socializing and get to meet teachers, and that kind of the state of mind being there for online classes for the past 1.5 years is really somewhat like it's not. They need to change. The mind must be changed, and they need to have a fresh air. Of course, boys from 9 to 12, they are pretty they know what is happening around. They know the environment, and they know to be a little.
What is your son telling you about what's happening in the school? I mean, are they following the protocol properly, or is it just like namesake? Are everyone wearing masks inside, and is the safety, the standard operating procedure being followed?
All the SOP procedures are followed.
Any of his classmates have got COVID? Any teachers have got COVID in your school?
No. All the teachers are vaccinated, and we've been updated by the management. All the non-teaching staff, teaching staff, everybody, and moreover, Don Bosco is conducting every week vaccination camp at their premises. Yes. So I should really appreciate my father principal, the management, everybody. The teacher.
They made sure that you do a good PR exercise for them. Although the principal did not want to join, he didn't want to get into a controversy, he told me.
So the teachers are getting tested, PCR tested every 10 days. So all precautionary measures, the non-teaching staff are getting tested. So we are very happy that Don Bosco is taking all the measures, and non-teaching staff have been put under supervision when the children are let out from school in the afternoon. So we are very happy to send. And we also train our children and educate them that they should behave in such a way that all the
COVID appropriate behavior. I'm so glad to hear that because that's my alma mater. I studied in Don Bosco, so I'm so glad to hear that about my school. School is doing so well, especially what about pick up the traffic and all that?
It has been monitored, sir. We have the non-teaching staff being standing in the Casa Major Road and clearing four-wheelers and three-wheelers and everything, and all the protocols. And our principal will always be on the ground checking people and seeing that no crowding takes place.
Okay, let's see if we can get some other. Thank you, Priya, for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Most welcome. Can we have some other parents, please? Parents who would love to switch on the camera and share their views like Priya. Grandparents as well are most welcome. I seem to have scared Eric's grandmother, asked her to join. Okay, there is, Jyoti Swarup. I'm a grandparent of a 6-year-old weighing pros and cons. I would like him to go to school. Jyoti, if you are there, can you please switch on your camera? Jyoti Swarup is a veteran teacher, somebody who's a darling of her students I know from Rosary Matriculation School.
One second, let's turn on the light.
Yes. Thank you, Jyoti, for joining us. You just posted a comment that you are in favor of.
Yes, Sanjay. I have been talking about kids going to school much before the government did. And I always wondered why we were talking about classes 9 upwards, where I always felt kids 1 to 5 must be in school.
Oops, okay.
Yeah, because I think it's safer for kids of class 1 to 5 to go, since parents are going to drop and pick up, and they are more likely to sit in a place and listen to the teacher. Your children, when they leave for school, they go out in droves. I see the way they go out, and I see the kind of, I have a 6-year-old grandson who's in grade 1 going to grade 2, and the harassment at home and parents. So, I live in flats. So there's this lady upstairs who's telling her son, Anshul, behave, Anshul, reflect, Anshul, from morning till evening, it's Anshul, Anshul, Anshul. And this kid across the house gets battered every day. Children are being, there is domestic abuse in homes like yours and mine. It's scary because we don't perceive the kind of, we don't perceive the kind of mental harassment that is happening. So as far as class 1 to 5, I wish we could open up class 1 to 5.
Let me put that to the test, Dr. Benny Benjamin. That's a very interesting take, and I think it's a very logical explanation that Jyoti has actually marshaled. 1 to 5 is safer. Would you agree with that, Doc?
I've not thought about it, but I agree. There's a lot of psychological problems associated with prolonged lockdown, not only for children, but for parents, and because of they have to multitask and all that. So I'm not sure if school is a safer environment. I've not really thought about it. But certainly, I think the priority is for the older children to get back to school, but ultimately you have to think of opening up the school to other classes as well.
Yes.
But I'm not
I'll come back to Dr. Ravi. Yes, Doc. Thank you. I'd like to get some students here. I know students have been waiting very patiently because really, I always feel that, Maria Lima wants to express her opinion in Tamil. You're most welcome. Daralama ninga pesala Tamil le. Maria?
Sir, good evening, sir.
Good evening. Solluங்கம்மா.
Maria Lima. என்னோட சன் வந்து எக்மோர் Don Bosco படிக்கிறாங்க. நானும் ஒரு டீச்சர் சென்ட் பிரான்சிஸ் சேவியர் ஆங்கிலன் ஸ்கூல் பிராட்வேல ஒர்க் பண்ணிட்டு இருக்கேன். ஸோ இந்த ஸ்கூல் ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணது வந்து ரொம்ப நல்லா இருக்கு. பசங்களோட லேர்னிங் கெப்பாசிட்டிக்கு, ஏன்னா வீட்டில் இருந்து ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணபடி யூனிசெஃப் ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணபடி
கொஞ்சம் சத்தமா பேசுறீங்களா? உங்க ஆடியோ அவ்வளவு கிளியரா இல்ல, கொஞ்சம் சத்தமா பேச முடியுமா? அந்த எக்கோ, அந்த 2 இன்ஸ்ட்ருமெண்ட் வச்சிருக்கீங்களா? ஒரு இன்ஸ்ட்ருமெண்ட் வந்து நீங்க ஆஃப் பண்ணுங்க. ஒரு இன்ஸ்ட்ருமெண்ட் ஆஃப் பண்ணுங்க, ஒரு இன்ஸ்ட்ருமெண்ட் மட்டும் யூஸ் பண்ணுங்க. எக்கோ வரும். இப்போ இன்னும் கொஞ்சம் வேகமா, இன்னும் கொஞ்சம் சத்தமா பேசுறீங்களா?
இப்போ கொஞ்சம் கிளியரா கேக்குதா சார்?
இப்போ பரவாயில்ல, நீங்க பேசலாம்.
என்னோட சன் வந்து டான் போஸ்கோல படிக்கிறாங்க. நானும் ஒரு டீச்சர் சென்ட் பிரான்சிஸ் சேவியர் ஆங்கிலோனியன் ஸ்கூல்ல ஒர்க் பண்ணிட்டு இருக்கேன். சோ என்னோட டீச்சரோட பாயிண்ட் ஆஃப் வியூல சொல்ல வந்தோம்னா, பசங்களுக்கு வந்து சார் சொன்னபடி யூனிசெஃப்ல சார் சொன்னபடி லேர்னிங் கெப்பாசிட்டி வந்து ரொம்ப கம்மியாகுது. ரீடிங் அண்ட் மேத்தமெட்டிக்ஸ்ல ரொம்ப லோவா இருக்காங்க. ஆனா அவங்க ஸ்கூலுக்கு வந்தப்ப வந்து ஆன்லைன்ல கத்துக்கிட்டதை விட இங்க ஆஃப்லைன்ல வந்து ரொம்ப சந்தோஷமா நிறைய டவுட் கிளியர் பண்ணிக்கிட்டு அவங்க மைண்ட்ல ஏறுறதுக்கும் அவங்க எழுதி எழுதி பிராக்டிஸ் பண்றதுக்கும் ரொம்ப நல்லா இருக்கு. ஸோ ஆஃப்லைன் கிளாஸஸ் தான் ரொம்ப நல்லா இருக்கும்னு சொல்லிட்டு இருக்கு.
ரொம்ப நன்றிமா உங்க கருத்துக்கு ரொம்ப நன்றி. Let's also get students if they have logged in, students, because really we need to check. You can't play Hamlet without the Prince of Denmark, as they say. So are there students who logged in who would like to unmute and speak? Yes, there's Atri Roy. Would you like to switch on your camera, please? Don't worry if you're no matter what you have to say, nobody is going to censor you here.
Yes, sir. 1 minute.
You can, yeah. Could you switch on your camera, please? We'd like to see you. Yes.
1 minute.
Yes, Atri, please tell me. Yeah. How has it been? Have you been going back to school?
Yes, good evening, sir.
Good evening.
I've been missing school terribly.
Have you started going back to school?
No, sir. I'm in 7th grade, so I'm not
Okay.
able to go to school. School is basically like a second home to me, and I've missed it terribly for the last 18 months. I want to go back to school at the earliest, and I'm not really enjoying online classes as much as I was enjoying physical classes. Nothing can beat the classroom interaction and the personal touch of our teachers. Staying away from school has affected me psychologically. If all my teachers and school staffs are vaccinated, then I will feel that I'm safe and go to school without any fears.
What do your friends tell you, Atri? Are your friends also on the same boat? They also want to all catch up
Yeah.
and, you know?
Most of my friends, they're actually they're a bit troubled because there are network issues and they can't join classes on time.
What about
So
exams? Are exams very challenging online?
Exams, a bit it is challenging because we have to scan our papers and upload them on a website that might hang at times. So it is very challenging at moments.
Okay, so let's hope that there is some let up in the cases and schools can reopen. It looks like parents and the health secretary, the doctors, definitely the two doctors who've been real messiahs of hope on the show, both Dr. Benny and Dr. Ravichandran. So doctors, the relevant experts, the NGOs, students, teachers, everybody seems to be unanimous that they want schools to reopen even for the smaller classes with a grandparent and a veteran teacher, Jyoti Swarup, even saying that 1st to 5th standard classes also the school should reopen. Dr. Ravichandran, if I can come back to you, are there any other students, before I go to Dr. Ravi, any other students who would like to speak? Students who would like to speak?
So I would like to speak, sir.
Yes.
Good
Yeah. What's your
evening.
name? What's your name? Good evening.
My name is Samuel Clavapol, sir, and I'm from Don Bosco, Egmont.
Okay, all the students only from Don Bosco. The principal ensured that his absence is compensated by students and teachers and parents. Yes, please tell me.
Yes, sir. Actually, going back to school is like really coming back to the same schedule, because since our kindergarten, we have been following the same schedule of going to school, coming back, doing our homework, studying, and doing co-curricular activities.
You're missing homework, is it?
Yes, I miss mostly school, everything regarding to school, because when it comes to online, you don't have the same experience. It's only about the lessons, and we don't get additional classes which we really enjoyed, like catechism classes, moral science classes, PT
Okay, you're
classes.
a model student. You are missing your catechism and moral science classes, and you're
Yes,
missing your
I'm
homework.
missing all the other co-curricular
Have you paid the fees for the whole year? Any idea?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I paid.
But did you pay the fees for the whole year when you joined school physical classes, or earlier itself?
I joined when the academic term started. They gave us a notice to pay the fees, and I paid the fees for the entire term. And also there were some compensations, like if last year you had paid the entire fees, this year you have only to pay 75%. So, so this year I paid only 75% since I had paid the full fees last year, and vice versa for the students who didn't pay 100%.
Good. There's Benjamin, a parent of class 12, who wants to join in. Benjamin, most welcome. Please join. There's another student who wants to join. Yes. Before we go to Benjamin, student signed in through Elamati.
Hello.
1 second, Benjamin. There's a student who wants to join. Yes, please tell me. Please introduce yourself and start speaking.
Yes, sir. My name is Harshad. I am from grade 5A from MBM Kovilampakam, sir.
Okay.
I think this, I really want to go to school.
You're not scared of corona. You're not scared of corona.
No. I just want to go out to school.
Okay, no matter what, you'll wear a mask.
Stuck in 4 walls. Yes, I will wear a mask. But
You'll wear a mask, you'll wash your hands, you'll keep the distance from your friends, all that you'll do?
Yes, sir. But I just want to go.
You just want
Because
to go.
like I am like stuck in 4 walls.
I can imagine. I can
I can
imagine.
go here, there, that's it. 3 rooms I really visit, that's all.
Let's
I
hope.
want
Let's
to-
hope and pray. Let's hope and pray that the situation is eased up a bit and you can go back to school. There's Durga, whose daughter wants to speak. Yes, but before that, I'll go to Benjamin, who's been waiting. Benjamin, please go ahead. Benjamin, a parent, yes.
Yeah. Good evening to everybody.
Good
So,
evening.
as a parent of a class 12 child, it's definitely important for my daughter to attend the classes.
Which school is your daughter in?
She's from PSBB Millennium OMR.
Okay.
Though the online classes are pretty good, but then it is important for the children to attend. But my concern is not only in this school, every school, the transportation is a problem. The mobility.
Which we had read, yes, which we had flagged earlier on the show, yes.
Yeah, so I mean, I think the government and the school work together.
What is your suggestion? What is your precise suggestion?
I feel it has to be customized. The school has to take a call with the respective parents who are willing to send the children, and then come up with a model where either the school or a separate vendor is arranged with consensus. That will help working parents. It's really tough to now suddenly all of a sudden arrange a transport. That's my personal opinion. Not only for me, for most of the parents like me.
Okay, thank you, Benjamin, for sharing your views. Durga's daughter wants to speak. Yes, I just see something on the chat box. Durga's daughter.
Good evening to all and Jai Gurudev. My name is S. Lakshana Dharani. I'm studying Maharshi Vidya Mandir Kovilambakam. I am excited to go to school only. I like online class, but I am so excited to go school. In school, we can meet our friends and teachers. In online class, we cannot meet. We can see only our screen only. I like to go to school. I can meet our friends and teachers all.
Okay, good. I hope you get to go to school soon.
Yes.
We also have another request from, I just saw a request, Adityan Sridharan, who says, I personally feel that offline classes are much better. Adityan, do you want to tell us on camera what you feel about online classes and offline classes?
Sir, I would prefer just speaking it out. But truly, I think...
Adityan Sridharan?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me? Hello?
Okay, there's Pargunan also who wants to speak. Pargunan, I'm just going by the chat box.
Hello.
Since
Good
Adityan
evening,
cannot
sir.
come on camera, I'll just read out his comment. He says that he personally feels that offline classes are much better because he enjoys the personal touch of teachers and thoroughly enjoys social interaction. I think that's well put for a young student. Yes, Pargunan. All yours.
Sir, good evening, sir.
Good evening.
I think physical class is more easy, more comfortable for me. I think I can clear my doubts very easily because in online classes I'm very scared to ask doubts. But I think in physical class I can easily ask doubts with my teachers. And
You're not allowed to unmute. You're not allowed to unmute and ask doubts in the online class, is it?
Yes, I was very congested to ask.
Not the same. Not the same.
Yes,
Okay. Irfan Anjum wants to ask a question. Yes, go ahead, please. Irfan.
Hello, can you hear me, sir?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, like as I'm Muhammad Amiswell's parent.
Yeah, please. Do you want to switch on your camera, ma'am? I leave it to you.
No, it's I'm.
Yeah, please. Then go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. And as everyone are telling, online, I mean, offline classes are better. There is no doubt in that because we have all been very much comfortable with offline classes only. But if we are going to send our children to the school, as everyone are talking, I think the responsibility of the school is going to be more, because now as per the protocol they are doing, there is only 4 classes, they are doing it batch wise, so there is no crowd, then we are okay, we are comfortable sending them. But if the scenario is going to change, like they are going to open the school for all the students and it is going to be not the batch wise or something, then I don't think so it is going, the situation is going to be the same. So we are really concerned about it as if the situation changes. Now it is only about 4 classes, 9, 10, +1, +2, then it's fine. All the parents are willing to send is okay. But will the situation be the same if the school is going to say open for all the children? We don't know about that.
Okay,
So,
that's a valid concern. Thank you very much.
And
We got
moreover-
Kavinshri Ramesh. Kavinshri, I'm trying to. In fact, this was supposed to be a 1-hour show, but fortunately, unlike my earlier television channels, we didn't have the pressure of commercial breaks really. So I'm extending it a little to give as many a chance to speak. Kavinshri Ramesh, do you want to come in? Kavinshri Ramesh?
Yes, sir.
Yes, please tell.
I hope I'm audible and
Yes,
visible.
yes, both.
I'm a 12th grader, so obviously this year is very important for me. And what I feel is physical class is better because it kind of creates a distinction between your home time and school time, which gives you more concentration. The whole of 11th grade felt like the time had all blended together. It felt like there wasn't really a distinction between okay, now I have to focus for studying, or I have to focus or I have to rest or anything. So it was very hard to keep up. So with actually going to school, now we have actual timings. So it helps me concentrate more. So I feel physical school is very
Good. I think that's very well put, Kavinshri. Jyoti Swarup again says schools can live stream their classes. I think that's interesting in terms of especially hybrid options that is given. I can see senior journalist Murari online. Murari, do you want to add your valuable inputs, Murari? Can you unmute yourself, Murari? You'll have to unmute yourself. Still cannot hear you. You have to unmute, Murari. I can see you, but I can't hear you.
Yeah, now I have done that.
Now I can.
Now
Yes,
can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Please go ahead.
From what I have learned, there are only 2 problems. One is, as UNICEF said, schools should be the first to be closed and the first to be open and last to be closed, because they have a natural immunity up to 15 years or something. But that has not happened because there has not been much of vaccination. We have to have 100% vaccination. And as I see, the children are more carriers than victims, because then the teachers have to be 100% vaccinated. That's one problem. Second problem is that they may be spreading others. And more than anything, you cannot keep social distances among children, especially those at the second level, middle level, and all that. They have a natural tendency to mix and play and all that. So these are all the problems. And as you said, the transport and all this, the most important is connectivity. I have seen boys, in villages, not far from Chennai, about 50 to 60 kilometers, and sitting on bus stops and then rooftops for connectivity, mobile phone. Second point is, how many children will have schools where families have 2 or 3 smartphones? They can have only one phone. I've heard of a specific case of a girl or boy here whose father is an auto driver. He needs a mobile. Unless he finishes the work and comes back, she won't be able to, or he able to access the school. These are all the problems. And of course, the attention span is also there, but we have more technology now, Zoom classrooms and all that. Teachers can keep attention on everyone. And then also parents, how many they're working parents, how do they monitor the children? There are various problems, but I feel personally nothing like physical classes. Online classes may be the option to save the children's lives and all that, but ultimately schools have to reopen, we have to take the risk. That's my view.
Thank you, Murari. As always, a pleasure to have you with your ear to the ground. Thank you so much for patiently joining us and giving us that input. I can see other comments. Deepa Julian, thank you. Deepa Julian says, Deepa Julian, do you want to come on camera?
My internet is a bit sporadic.
Yeah, you could just you could give
Okay.
us your view, Deepa. Thank you.
Yeah, so we're already a whole generation of people who are obese, don't really care so much about our health. We are so into fast food. I'm just thinking a little wider. If we continue to just sit by our desk, do everything online, won't it actually have long-term health issues as such? Our children don't play anymore. They have no social skills. You'll actually see the young kids, like the ones in smaller classes as well, who don't know how to communicate. Take them to a slightly bigger environment, like just with two more people, and they're automatically afraid and they go back into their shell. So I think all these will need to be considered. Whereas when you look at kids who actually have been to school in their primary education, they've really understood at least how to interact and speak with people. So these are things that really are kind of going to change the way we look at the whole generation as such.
Thank you very much, Deepa. I think there's a second standard student who wants to speak, or is it yes, a second standard student who wants to speak? Nancy's son. Nancy, do you want to ask your son to come on camera?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Hi, what's your name? Which class are you in?
My name is Joshua. I'm studying second standard.
Okay, you must be the youngest panelist on a. You must be a youngest panelist. What do you feel? Do you want to go back to school?
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay, and what about Corona? Not scared?
I'm not scared, sir.
So you will wear a mask?
Yes, sir.
What about wearing a mask for a long time, many hours sitting in the classroom? It will be difficult, no?
Yes, sir.
But you will wear a mask and you want to go back. Are you missing your friends?
School, sir.
Okay, you're missing your friends?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
My
All right, let's hope you can meet your friends soon. Okay? Let's hope you can meet your friends. Thank you for joining. Thank you for joining. You're the youngest panelist. You really had the courage to join us. I thought Tanisha had logged in. Tanisha, after which we'll go to Itika, Shri, and Ajmal. I thought I saw a name there. Tanisha. Okay, Itika, Shri. Yes.
Hi, sir.
Hi, Itika. Yes, Itika. What do you feel? You want to go back to school? Are you scared of Corona?
Yes, sir. But I want to see my friends.
Okay. Seeing them online is not good enough.
No, sir. I want to see in offline, sir.
Okay. Fine. Thank you, Itika. Thank you for joining us. We had, I think, Ajaz, right? Remember the name?
Tanisha.
Yes, Tanisha, yes. We're waiting patiently. Yeah. Yes, please tell me, Tanisha.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. See, as everyone was saying, like offline, now since why offline is not there and they kept online, there is reason of COVID. So I feel that is a very safe, and all the teachers and from the schools, they were doing a very great job and teaching every student and seeing each and every student attending the class and reverting them back. And it is a really very tough job to do online. And it was a very great thing. For 1.5 years they did it. And now since everything is over, anyway, the school is going to start. It is not going to be online only.
What is,
lifetime. It is not a lifetime.
What is over? You say everything is over. What is over?
No, everything is not over.
Not over. Okay.
The COVID.
Okay, because your video is freezing a little. Your video is freezing a little, which is a problem with online classes as well. That sometimes happens. Are you a teacher? Are you a homemaker? Do you work in an office?
No, I was, and right now after the COVID, I'm at home itself because I can't keep going out and coming here. I have 82 years, my mother and my son.
Okay. Yeah, that's
So,
important.
little
Those who
scary
have
of
elderly,
going out and
yes,
coming like-
yes, that fear is there. Elderly people, those who have elders at home, because they would have comorbidities, as I said earlier. Thank you, Tanisha, for joining us. We've got Ajaz as well who wanted to speak.
But
Ajaz,
even my
a
mother
student.
wanted to say something. If you
Please,
don't
please,
mind.
I want to hear from grandparents as well. Please.
She's not 82, she's 76.
She's 70. Okay.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening. But you look only
Good
40.
evening.
It's okay.
Oh, thank you. I prefer online class, sir, because
Okay,
here
why,
in
ma'am?
Moscow, they are really very good in that, teaching the children, and they are making them write, and they want the notes immediately. They send in the
PDF form and they correct the notes. So everything is going on well. But suddenly this offline class, we are afraid to send our kid.
You're scared to send?
Yes. To
Okay.
tell you the truth, that's the real fact.
Does your school offer the hybrid mode? I mean, does they give you an
wrote a
option?
letter and gave to father. He
Okay.
accepted. He accepted. So
So you're
now
not sending your grandson to school?
No, only 2 days we sent him.
Okay, and after that he came
After
back,
that,
is it?
no, we
Why? What
gave
was the
that-
fear? Why did you not send him on the third day?
No, sir, if they go play, mingle with the children, if anything happens, then we can't take.
Okay, that's very candid.
Only the reason, yes.
Yes, I
after a
understand. I can
long
relate to
time,
that.
If they meet the friends, they won't keep quiet. Even though if they wear mask, whatever it is. They excitement, they'll go run, hug each other, all this will happen. Inside the school, they won't do that. When they go out, we can't, no one can watch them. So that's the main thing.
Okay, thank you very much, ma'am, for joining us. We have time for one last question. I'll take this from Kaushika. Okay, we'll take two questions. Kaushika and Gaushika. I think they are what, twins? Kaushika and Gaushika. They sound like twins. Are they?
No, sir. No.
Not twins, maybe sisters. Okay. Ajmal
Yeah.
Ahmad, also very quickly, if you can share your opinion. Yes.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Chika.
Yes, good evening. What do you feel? You want to go back to school or don't want to go back to school?
I want to go to school.
Your mother is telling you.
Yes.
Okay, good. Mother asking you to go to school. Giving a lot of trouble in the house?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Ajmal has been waiting for a long time.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Ajmal. Yeah, sorry to keep you waiting. Ajmal, what is
It's
your
okay,
view?
sir. So, I'm Ajmal from 9th. I'm studying Don Bosco, sir.
Yes, Ajmal, what is your view?
So, I personally, in my opinion, I think offline classes are more comparatively good, sir. Because in the online classes, we face many technical issues such as joining the class late or not joining the class. So we have a physical interaction with the teachers while coming to offline. I think
Okay.
offline class is better.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much, Ajmal. Well, I'm afraid that's all the time we have for this discussion. We overshot it by half an hour and a half. I think this has been a very, very interesting, a very engaging discussion. Even if I say it myself, we've got a cross section, of people, of students, of the relevant stakeholders. We had the health secretary, we've had doctors, pediatricians, NGOs, journalists, senior journalists at that, students, parents, grandparents. So I think all the relevant stakeholders. Thank you very much for your time. These 1.5 hours really, passed very quickly. So I think there are positive takeaways from this discussion. The two doctors emphatically telling us that the third wave affecting children is grossly exaggerated. The health secretary also reassuring us. Most parents and students seem to be in favor of resuming classes. One grandparent and a veteran teacher even went to the extent of saying 1st to 5th should also reopen. So, well, that's what Chennai as such feels about this subject. Thank you very much for joining us. We have more webinars coming up on contentious issues, especially the ones affecting children. Thank you for your time. Good night.